He is political and social commentator Ben Habib. Don't mention reform. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. Let's talk first of all, if we can, about the migrant crisis, because you probably noticed 215 more came across yesterday, 260 on Monday, and 99 yesterday had to be rescued from the sea as their overcrowded vessels struggled to stay afloat. So same old, same old. Our Prime Minister dealt with this escalating situation by heading off to Ukraine to pose for pictures with Zelensky. That means that this year alone more than 600 migrants have come across. And it transpires also, Ben, that last year 45,600, something like that, came across. Of those, they're all illegal, by the way. Every single one of them is illegal.
Of course. Yeah.
Of those, we deported 215. Now, let's talk about this government's response. How many gangs have they smashed? How many people smugglers have they caught? Having spent £150 million on high-tech equipment for their already very expensive border security force, headed up by a guy called Martin Hewitt, who gets £200,000 a year, who has pointed out to the Prime Minister, listen, if you don't have deterrence, you'll never stop these people coming. The Prime Minister's response to that, it looks like it was go, la, 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 not listening. What is this government ever going to do about it? This is getting worse by the day.
Well, Greg Swenson, who you had on just before me, said it, didn't he? That, we've had decades of appeasement, decades of governments not recognizing that in order to preserve the peace, you've got to be strong. Strength through peace through strength. That's what he said. And you can use the same analogy for our borders. Unless you recognize to be enforcing your borders, unless you're recognized to be taking the action that's required in order to prevent people from entering your country, and those who then get into your country are treated like criminals, as they should be, deported back to where they came from. Unless you have that kind of approach, you're going to invite more and more people to do it. And here's the thing, all the lefty, liberal, open border brigade nutcases bemoan the fact that people are taking risks with their own lives in the Channel. People are dying in the Channel. Understandably, they're concerned about that. But that death in the Channel, those risks being taken by people in the Channel, would stop if those people knew they couldn't get into the United Kingdom. So it is exactly how Greg said it. If we're strong, we enforce our borders, we have the requisite deterrence, we deport the people who come into this country illegally. Actually, those seeking to come to the country would simply stop doing it. And then we would have a settled United Kingdom again. We wouldn't have to have these discussions incessantly, and we wouldn't be spending the thick end now of £10 billion a year and rising on illegal migrants. £10 billion a year, 6 times the amount required to pay for the pensioners' winter fuel allowance.
Yes, that's a very good point. And also bear in mind, I'll do the sums in a little while, but I worked this out the other day. Every single one of these migrants coming across the Channel, so we've got 215 today, 260 on Monday. Quite low numbers compared with some days. Some days we have more than 1,000 come across.
It's January.
Every
right?
single one, yeah, sure. Every single one of those migrants will cost you, me and every British taxpayer £40,000 a year for the foreseeable future. So the costs involved are astronomical. Our government, our Prime Minister, I don't think he likes borders. I don't think he likes Britain much. And I don't think he wants to stop this crisis. I don't think his heart is in it. I think his smash the gangs strategy is just something to say.
Our Prime Minister was in Ukraine, as you mentioned, striking what he called a 100-year partnership with Zelensky, for which, by the way, you can read a new international treaty for the protection of the Ukraine. That is something he was doing at no doubt vast cost to the United Kingdom in due course, while we ourselves as a country are suffering so much. I had a bit of a debate on X the other day when Reform announced Charlie Mullins
Yeah,
joining
well,
the
you and I
party.
talked about it, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. And people said, Ben, people can change their minds. For goodness sake, he may have voted Remain. He now is prepared to, join what was the Brexit Party, which sounds balmy.
Yeah.
But notwithstanding the fact that he actually reiterated he wanted to vote Remain again if he was given an opportunity, the point about Remainers, which is where Keir Starmer is, the point about Remainers is that they subscribe to the global order. They subscribe to governance through supranational institutions, international treaties, and their attendant courts, their lawyers and their courts and so on, that adjudicate often over above the head of the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. And that is basically anti-British. You cannot be a Remainer. You cannot be pro the governance of the United Kingdom through supranational institutions like Keir Starmer is, like Charlie Mullins is, and be pro-British. They stand absolutely in opposition to each other. And it's more than just optics, I think, that Starmer is in Ukraine striking a 100-year new international treaty binding our country into a long-term commitment for the protection of Ukraine. How the hell did he get the authority to do that?
It's exactly what I was saying earlier, Ben. Was that in Labour's manifesto? Has that been voted for in Parliament? He's just done this unilaterally. Now, I don't know what you think. I don't want a 100-year deal with Ukraine and millions of other people. What does he think he's doing?
Kevin, Ukraine, and I'm sure it's still the case, but up until the war was declared, war broke out with Russia, was worse on the international scale of law and order than Nigeria. I mean, this is not a country that has a reputation or a history in law and order with which we can identify, to which we can relate. This is a country, it's a rogue kind of nation. It wasn't part of the EU. This love of Ukraine is a new form of woke.
Yeah.
You've got to wear the Ukrainian flag.
Yeah, that's right.
To symbolize your commitment to Ukraine. Otherwise, you're some kind of, sort of right-wing
Neanderthal fascist. By the way, Ben, I've just done the sums, by the way. I probably got it wrong, but I'm not very good at maths. But here we go. Talking about those migrants that came across. So the 260 that came across on Monday, they will cost us over the next year £10,400,000. And the 215 that came across yesterday will cost us over the next year £8,600,000. That adds up to, this is quite a minor week in terms of the number crossing the channel, but this week's tally will cost us, British taxpayers, £19 million. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
If you extrapolate that across the year, Kevin, that's another nearly £4 billion a year. £4 billion a year just from this year's intake.
Oh, God.
We are collapsing.
Yes,
the nation is collapsing.
Yeah. And it's just symbolises this Prime Minister that as this catastrophe, the migrant crisis, is brought into sharp focus by this week's events. He gets on a plane for his 22nd foreign jolly since he came into power on July the 5th. 22 foreign trips. Stay here, Keir. Never here, Keir.
Don't. Actually, leave the country and never come back.
I don't mind him going to Ukraine, but next time you go, Keir, make it a one-way ticket.
One way.